I never thought a 5-minute walk through the park could change how I look at my neighborhood forever. It was a warm summer night, quiet and calm. I just left work late and decided to take the shortcut home through the small city park between my office and apartment. I'd walked that path hundreds of times. The lamps glowed orange, the air smelled like freshly cut grass, and the sound of crickets echoed softly. There was nothing strange about it until that night. I had one earbud in, my playlist low. I passed a group of teenagers on a bench laughing, an old man tossing crumbs to pigeons near the fountain, and a jogger moving past me. Then I heard it, a metallic clink, faint and steady like a chain being dragged lightly on concrete. I looked around. The jogger had nothing that could make that sound, and the old man was too far away. I kept walking, but the sound came again. 3 slow clinks, then one. It came from my left, from behind a small fenced-off area near the dog run. For a second, I saw something. Eyes low to the ground, reflecting the light like tiny mirrors. I froze. They didn't blink or move like an animal's would. They just stared. My pulse kicked up. Probably a cat, I told myself, or someone filming something with a camera lens. Then I heard the clinking again, closer now, matching my steps. I turned my head and saw it, a figure stepping out from behind the fence. Tall, thin, hood pulled up, holding something long and metallic at its side. Every few steps, it tapped the ground. Clink, clink, clink. The figure didn't rush or hide. It just moved slowly, confidently, like it had every right to be there. I slowed down, unsure if I should turn around or keep walking. The path narrowed between 2 lamps, the kind of spot where the darkness feels thicker. I thought about crossing the grass to go around, but I didn't. I didn't want to look paranoid. When we were just a few feet apart, both of us stopped. The only sound was the faint rattle of that chain swinging gently. Then the figure raised its head slightly and spoke. "You forgot me," it said. The voice was rough, layered, like someone speaking through cloth. I blinked. "What?" I asked. "You forgot me." Its head tilted. The sound came again. Clink, clink. The dog. The word hit me like a slap. "The dog?" I said. "I don't have a dog." The figure stood still, then whispered, "You left him." I didn't understand. I wanted to, but my brain couldn't make sense of it. Then something cold crawled through my stomach as a memory flickered. Months ago, a woman from my apartment building had put up a sign. "Gone for 2 weeks. Please feed Scout, a small terrier." A few neighbors said they'd take care of it. The sign had stayed up for months. I never checked if anyone actually did. I just assumed. "He waited," the figure said. "He waited, and no one came." I turned toward the fountain where the old man had been feeding pigeons. Under the weak light, I saw a small shape lying on the ground. A dog, still motionless, ribs visible beneath dirty fur. Its leash was tangled around its body. The stone beneath it was stained dark. I froze. The man, or whatever he was, walked toward the dog, slow and deliberate. He crouched and began to smooth the dog's fur with his bandaged hands. His fingers were wrapped in old, dirty cloth, and his arms trembled slightly as he whispered, "He waited." I could barely breathe. My throat tightened as I whispered, What happened to him?" The man looked up, and for the first time I saw his face, pale, bruised, eyes glassy like he hadn't slept in days. "You forgot him," he said. "You all forgot." I stammered. "I didn't. She was supposed to. Someone else." He shook his head slowly. "You saw the sign. You walked past it. You thought someone else would do it." The chain in his hand rattled as he lifted it. "That's how things die." I took a step back. "Look, I can call someone. An ambulance, a shelter." "They won't come," he said quietly. "They don't come for what's already been thrown away." He looked down at the dog again, his voice shaking. I tried to feed him. I tried to keep him warm, but he stopped waiting. He picked up the little body gently, cradling it like something fragile. I could see the name tag on its collar. Scout, the same dog from that forgotten sign. Why didn't you take him to a shelter? I asked, my voice trembling. Shelters are for people who want to be seen helping, he said. I help the things no one looks at. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw something in them. Grief, not anger. They leave them behind and pretend it doesn't hurt, he whispered. But everything left behind waits. He stood and carried the dog to the fountain, setting it down beside a dented, rusted metal food bowl. Then softly, he said, They don't remember what they forget. But I do. I finally managed to dial 911. As I described what I was seeing, he sat on a bench, draping the chain across his knees. You can go now, he said calmly. I didn't move. The sound of the chain filled the silence. 3 taps, 1 tap, 3 taps. The pattern felt deliberate, rhythmic, like a code or heartbeat. Blue lights appeared at the edge of the park. The man turned, saw them, and smiled faintly. They'll come for the story, he said, not for him. Then he stood, raised the chain once, and walked away into the darkness beyond the lamps. The officers arrived minutes later. They checked the dog, took photos, asked me questions. The dog was barely breathing, ribs rising in shallow motion. They took him to a shelter, but he didn't make it through the night. They found no record of the man I saw. No one fitting his description, no homeless report, no cameras that caught his face, only a blurry shadow, walking through the park, dragging something metallic. The next day, neighbors posted about the dog online. People argued about who was responsible. Some blamed the owner, some blamed the system. Some said, sad story, and scrolled past. No one mentioned the man with the chain. Weeks passed. The park went back to normal. The fountain was cleaned. The benches were full again. But the sound, the faint, rhythmic clink, still echoes in my head sometimes. When I walk home at night and hear a chain, I freeze. I've never seen him again, but I felt that same quiet weight when I see a stray animal, or a forgotten plant wilting on someone's porch, or a taped-up note asking for help. That night taught me that the worst horror isn't what hides in the dark. It's what we choose to ignore in the light. Now, whenever I pass the park, I leave a small can of dog food by the fence, not as an offering, but as an apology. Because sometimes the ghosts we make are the ones that waited too long for us to remember. And if you ever walk through a park late at night and hear a faint metallic rhythm, 3 taps, 1 tap, don't assume it's just the wind. It might be the sound of something or someone reminding you of what you forgot. Last winter, I started taking nightly walks through the park near my apartment complex. It wasn't exactly a huge park, just a few winding paths, a small pond, and some benches scattered under old, gnarled trees. But it was quiet, peaceful, and usually empty after dark. I work from home and spend most of my days behind a computer, so those late-night walks became something I looked forward to. It cleared my head. I never thought something as simple as that could almost cost me my life. The first few weeks were uneventful. I'd throw on my hoodie, plug in my headphones, and walk the same loop around the pond. The park lights flickered sometimes, and the shadows from the trees stretched long and thin across the path, but it was never scary, just lonely. Sometimes I'd see a couple walking their dog or a jogger cutting through. But there was one night when the air felt different. The park was colder than usual, and the mist off the pond hung thick enough to blur the path ahead. I remember checking my phone. It was 11:43 p.m., and thinking I'd only walk halfway tonight. About 10 minutes into my walk, I noticed someone sitting on a bench across from the pond. It was strange because that area never had anyone sitting that late. They weren't moving, just sitting there, perfectly still. I assumed it was maybe another night owl like me, but when I passed by, I realized something was off. The person, if you could even call them that, was facing the water with their back straight and head tilted slightly up, like they were listening to something. I could barely make out their face under the streetlight, but their skin looked almost gray. I tried not to stare. I walked faster, told myself it was just my imagination, and took the longer route back to the entrance. When I turned my head a few seconds later, the bench was empty. I stopped dead in my tracks. I know I hadn't heard any footsteps or movement, but the person was gone. My heart started pounding. I scanned the trees, the path, even the pond, but nothing. It was silent except for the distant hum of traffic. I shook it off and told myself they probably just left while I wasn't looking. That night, when I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tried to laugh it off, but deep down, something about how still they sat, how unnatural their posture was, it just wouldn't leave my head. The next night, I went back, mostly to prove to myself it was nothing. Same time, same cold air. Everything looked normal again. I felt a bit foolish for letting it bother me, but halfway through my walk, as I passed by the same bench, I froze. The figure was there again, same position, same tilt of the head. Only this time, they were facing the path instead of the water. Their head turned slowly toward me as I approached. I couldn't see their eyes, just hollow dark sockets that caught the faint orange glow from the light above. I stopped breathing. Then, in a voice that sounded like it came from everywhere at once, I heard, "You came back." I ran. I didn't even think, just sprinted all the way back to my apartment. My chest burned, my vision blurred, and when I finally reached my door, I slammed it shut and locked every latch. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up until morning, lights on, heart still racing. The next day, I debated calling the police, but what would I say? That there was a weird gray figure sitting in the park? They'd think I was insane. So I avoided the park for a week. But I live close enough that I can see the top of the trees from my window. Around the fourth night, I noticed something horrifying. From my window, across the dimly lit street, I could see a shape sitting on the park bench, motionless, facing directly toward my building. I kept watching, hoping it was just a trick of the light, but when I blinked, it was gone. That night, I heard light tapping on my window. My apartment's on the second floor. I didn't move. I just sat in bed, staring at the shadow stretching across my wall. It stayed there for a full minute before fading away. I moved out 2 weeks later. I told my landlord I needed to relocate for work, but the truth is, I couldn't stay there. The night before I left, I went down one last time to grab a package. As I crossed the parking lot, I heard something faint behind me. A whisper carried on the wind. "You shouldn't have stopped walking." I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove straight through the night until I hit the next city. It's been months now, and I still walk sometimes, but never near parks, and never after dark. A few nights ago, I was scrolling through local news out of curiosity and saw something that made my blood run cold. The article mentioned multiple reports of people seeing a strange, unmoving figure sitting on park benches after midnight. The description was always the same. Gray skin, hollow eyes, head tilted slightly up. Police said it was probably a prank. But I know better, because when I looked at the photo they posted, zoomed in on the grainy still frame, I saw the bench. And behind the fog, staring straight at the camera, was that same figure. And this time, it was smiling. I used to work as a night cleaner for the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well enough, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Most of my shifts were in office buildings or schools, but once a week, I was assigned to clean the public park rest area, the small maintenance building near the playground and pond. That place always gave me weird vibes, especially after midnight. Everything looked different at night. The swings moved slightly, even when there was no wind. The old slide creaked like someone was climbing it, and the streetlights flickered constantly, casting shadows that seemed to move. But one night last summer, something happened that made me quit that job for good. I started my shift at 11:30 p.m., like usual. The park was completely empty, except for the faint hum of insects and the occasional rustle from the trees. My job was simple: mop the floors of the small restroom building, take out trash from the bins around the playground, and make sure the maintenance shed was locked. Around midnight, while I was collecting trash near the picnic tables, I noticed a man standing near the swing set. He was facing the pond, completely still. I called out, "Sir, the park's closed." No answer. I assumed he was maybe drunk or homeless, so I turned on my flashlight and started walking closer. That's when I realized something was wrong. The man wasn't standing normally. His head was slightly tilted back, his arms hanging stiffly by his sides. And the closer I got, the more I noticed that his clothes looked off. They were old-fashioned, like something out of the 1970s. Tan jacket, brown pants, shoes with a thick sole. When my light hit his face, I froze. His eyes were open, but they weren't moving. His skin had a strange, bluish tint, like he'd been underwater. I stumbled backward, fumbling for my phone to call the park security, but when I looked back up, he was gone. Completely gone. There was no sound, no movement, just empty swings swaying slightly in the night air. I ran straight back to the maintenance building, locked myself inside, and tried to calm down. Maybe it was my imagination, I told myself. Maybe the shadows and flickering lights were playing tricks on me. But then I heard something. From outside, the sound of heavy footsteps on the gravel path. Slow, measured, coming closer to the building. The lights inside flickered, and I turned off my flashlight, crouching behind a storage rack. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I could see the faint outline of someone standing through the frosted glass window. Then, a hand pressed against the glass, pale, wet-looking, with long fingers that left dark smears as it slid down. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. After a few seconds, the hand was gone. I stayed there until sunrise. When I finally stepped outside, there were wet footprints leading from the pond to the maintenance door, and then stopping. Like whoever it was had vanished into thin air. I reported it to my supervisor later that morning. They didn't believe me, but one of the older workers pulled me aside. He said, "You're not the first one to see him." He told me about a drowning that happened in that same pond nearly 40 years ago. A man had been fishing late at night when he slipped, hit his head, and never came back up. They found his body 2 days later near the reeds by the swing set. The city drained and refilled the pond after that, but people still said they saw him sometimes, standing by the water, head tilted, just staring. I quit a few weeks later, but not before one last shift. I didn't want to go, but they were short-staffed and begged me to cover, so I showed up one last time. The air was thick that night, heavy with fog. I worked fast, trying to finish early. Around 1 a.m., as I walked toward the trash bin near the swing set, I saw it again. The man. Same jacket, same still posture. Only this time, he was facing me. I froze. The fog around him seemed to ripple, like heat rising from asphalt. Then he started to move. Not walking, but gliding. His feet weren't touching the ground. I dropped my trash bag and ran as fast as I could to my truck. I didn't look back until I was halfway down the road, and even then, I saw something in the rearview mirror. He was standing in the middle of the road, watching me leave, his head still tilted slightly back. A few nights later, I woke up around 3 a.m. to a dripping sound in my apartment. I went to the kitchen to check the sink, but it was dry. Then I heard it again. Closer this time. I turned toward my window, and my heart nearly stopped. There were wet footprints on the floor, leading from the window toward my bedroom. I didn't sleep that night. I moved out the next morning. To this day, I can't go near parks, especially ones with ponds, because sometimes when I pass by a reflection in still water, I see him there, standing behind me, head tilted toward the sky, waiting.